Lieutenant Kang Min-ho adjusted his white dress uniform one final time, the morning sun casting long shadows across the marble steps of Seoul Memorial Chapel. The humid air clung to his skin. But he remained perfectly still, like a statue carved from determination and grief. Behind those heavy wooden doors, his wife Dr. Lee So-young lay in eternal rest, her brilliant mind silenced forever by what the authorities called a freak laboratory accident. Min-ho's jaw tightened as he remembered the official report. Equipment malfunction, human error, case closed. But So-young had been the most careful scientist he'd ever known. She triple-checked everything, questioned every variable, and never took shortcuts. The woman who had discovered 3 new elements on Jupiter's moons didn't just accidentally trigger a plasma containment failure. The sound of heavy boots echoed off the chapel walls, drawing Min-ho from his dark thoughts. 3 figures in police uniforms approached with mechanical precision, their movements strangely synchronized. The lead officer, a sergeant with cold eyes and pale skin, walked with an odd rigidity that made Min-ho's combat instincts stir. "You need to move along, soldier," the sergeant commanded, his voice carrying a metallic undertone that seemed to vibrate strangely in the morning air. Something about the way he spoke reminded Min-ho of the synthetic voices used in military briefings, but with an unsettling echo. Min-ho remained at attention, his eyes never leaving the chapel entrance. "I'm waiting for the service to begin, officer. My wife is inside." The sergeant's pale face showed no emotion, no flicker of sympathy that any normal human would display when confronted with a grieving widower. "I said move. Now. The service starts in 30 minutes, Min-ho replied, his voice steady despite the growing tension in his chest. "I have every right to be here." The 2 officers flanking the sergeant spread out slightly, their hands moving toward their weapons in a coordinated movement that struck Min-ho as oddly rehearsed. Real cops didn't move like that. Real cops showed at least some human emotion when dealing with bereaved families. "You're disturbing the peace," the sergeant stated flatly, his pale eyes never blinking. Final warning, Min-ho's enhanced hearing, a leftover gift from his military service, picked up something strange. The sergeant's heartbeat was too slow, too regular. His breathing pattern was mechanical, like a machine running on a preset rhythm. Warning bells began ringing in Min-ho's mind. "Officer, I'm not causing any disturbance," Min-ho said, his voice taking on the commanding tone he'd used with his troops. "I'm a decorated veteran paying respects to my deceased wife." Without warning, the sergeant's hand shot to his belt, drawing a military-grade taser within human speed. "I said move." The electrical surge hit Min-ho square in the chest with enough voltage to drop a charging bull. His body convulsed as 50,000 volts coursed through his nervous system. But instead of collapsing, something extraordinary happened. Deep within his brain, a dormant piece of technology that had been sleeping for 5 years suddenly roared to life. The neural implant, smaller than a grain of rice and hidden beneath layers of scar tissue, absorbed the electrical energy like a hungry beast. Min-ho's vision exploded into a kaleidoscope of data streams, tactical readouts, and communication frequencies. His enhanced memory, suppressed for years by military-grade psychological conditioning, came flooding back like a dam bursting. A piercing signal burst from his mortified brain stem, shooting skyward through layers of atmosphere and into the cold vacuum of space. The digital scream carried encoded identification markers, priority channels, and one simple message: Lazarus Unit 7 is compromised and active. The sergeant's pale eyes widened in what looked like genuine terror. For the first time since the confrontation began, his mechanical composure cracked. "The signal's been sent," he whispered into his radio with urgent panic. "Lazarus Unit 7 is active. Repeat, The sleeper has awakened. Minho staggered but remained standing, his enhanced physiology already adapting to the electrical assault. Through his restored memories, he remembered the briefings, the training. The terrible truth about why certain soldiers had been given neural implants. Earth wasn't alone in the universe, and humanity had enemies who could wear any face. "You're not police officers," Minho stated. His voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "You're not even human." The sergeant's skin began to shimmer like heat waves rising from summer asphalt. Beneath the human facade, something else was trying to break through. His fingers elongated slightly, and his pale eyes began to shift color, cycling through shades no human eye could produce. "The beacon cannot be stopped," the sergeant said, his voice now carrying multiple tones, as if several beings were speaking through one mouth. "But you can still be silenced," Minho's enhanced. Reflexes kicked in as all three figures reached for their weapons. The chapel bells began to toll, their deep bronze voices calling the faithful to morning service. Soon, innocent people would emerge from their cars and walk directly into a battlefield dot above them. Invisible to human eyes, the emergency beacon continued its urgent transmission into the depths of space. Where other sleepers waited for the call to arms, the real war for Earth was about to begin. The morning air around Seoul Memorial Chapel suddenly felt electric, charged with an energy that made the hair on Minho's arms stand up. 6 minutes and 43 seconds had passed since his neural implant screamed its digital message into the sky. Now the sky was answering back. Black vehicles appeared from every direction, like ghosts materializing from thin air. They didn't screech round corners or announce their arrival with sirens. Instead, they moved with the silent precision of predators, sliding into position with military efficiency that spoke of years of training and countless missions. The first vehicle stopped so close to the fake police officers that its bumper nearly touched the sergeant's legs. The doors opened with synchronized clicks, and figures in dark tactical gear poured out like water from a broken dam. Their movements were fluid, practiced, deadly. Minho's enhanced vision immediately catalogued their equipment. Advanced plasma, rifles that hummed with barely contained energy, body armor that seemed to bend light around its edges, communication devices that crackled with encrypted chatter. These weren't regular soldiers. These were humanity's apex predators. Their leader stepped forward, and Minho's restored memories immediately identified him. Captain Kim Jae-min, call sign Reaper. The most decorated operative in Earth's secret war against the stars. His face bore the scars of battles fought in the dark between worlds, and his eyes held the cold certainty of a man who had seen the true face of the universe. "Stand down." Jamin's voice carried the absolute authority of someone who had commanded troops in the depths of space, where a single mistake meant death for everyone under his command. "Step away from the civilian and identify yourselves." The fake sergeant's human mask was beginning to fail. His skin rippled like water, revealing glimpses of something terrible underneath. The other two officers were having the same problem, their disguises flickering like broken television screens. "We are officers of the law," the sergeant said, but his voice now carried multiple tones, as if several beings were trying to speak through one throat. "This man is under arrest for disturbing the peace." Jamin's laugh was cold as winter wind. "Officers of the law don't have pulse signatures that register as non-human. They also don't carry Vorthic energy weapons disguised as tasers." Minho watched in stunned recognition as the sergeant's skin began to shimmer and shift like oil on water. Beneath the human facade, dark green scales emerged, each one edged with a metallic sheen that caught the morning light. The creature's eyes elongated into vertical slits, and its fingers extended into razor-sharp claws. "Vorthic infiltrators," Jamin spat, raising his plasma rifle with practiced ease. right on schedule. The transformation was horrifying and beautiful at the same time. The three creatures shed their human skins like snakes, revealing their true forms. They stood 7 feet tall, with elongated limbs that moved with serpentine grace. Their heads were angular, almost triangular, with rows of needle-sharp teeth that gleamed like polished metal. The beacon has been sent. The lead Vortha kissed, its voice now a chorus of alien harmonics. But the sleeper can still be silenced. What happened next was a masterpiece of controlled violence. The Vorthik moved with inhuman speed, their forms blurring as they attacked, but Jamin's team moved faster. They had been training for this moment for years, preparing for the day when humanity's hidden enemies would finally reveal themselves. Plasma fire lit up the morning sky like artificial lightning. The Vorthik's energy weapons discharged with sounds like tearing metal, but the human soldiers were already moving, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to dodge attacks that would have vaporized normal men. Sergeant Choi Yoonji, the team's sniper, put a plasma bolt through the first Vorthik's chest before it could fully transform. The creature's dying scream sounded like breaking glass mixed with electronic feedback. Corporal Nam Tai-Hyen flanked the second infiltrator, his rifle chattering as he painted its scaled hide with superheated energy. The lead Vorthik, the one who had been masquerading as a police sergeant, proved more dangerous than its companions. It moved like liquid shadow, its claws extending into energy blades that could cut through steel. Jamin met its chart head-on, his own energy sword materializing from his gauntlet in a blaze of blue light. The duel lasted only seconds, but to Minho's enhanced perception, it unfolded like a deadly dance. The Vorthik was fast, but Jamin was faster. He had fought these creatures before, in the cold depths of space where humanity's survival had hung by a thread. His blade found its mark between the creature's scales, and alien blood hissed as it hit the pavement. Within minutes, 3 alien corpses lay cooling on the asphalt, their disguises failing in death. Their true forms were revealed in all their terrifying glory, proof that humanity was not alone in the universe, and that some neighbors were not friendly. "Lieutenant Park," Jamin said, using Minho's old military call sign. His voice carried the weight of shared memories and battles fought in the dark between stars. "Welcome back to the war." Minho's enhanced memories began flooding back like a dam bursting. Project Lazarus, the secret battles fought in the Outer Rim. The reason Earth's best soldiers had been given neural implants that could be activated in humanity's darkest hour. He remembered training sessions in underground facilities, briefings about threats that officially didn't exist, and the terrible knowledge that Earth was being watched by hostile eyes. "My wife," Minho gasped, the pieces of a terrible puzzle clicking together in his mind. "She found something, didn't she?" Jamin's expression grew grim as he surveyed the alien corpses. "She found everything, Lieutenant. The infiltration network, their breeding programs, their plans for Earth. And they killed her for it." The chapel bells continued to toll, their bronze voices now sounding like a funeral dirge for humanity's lost innocence. The tactical vehicle's armored hull vibrated with the controlled power of its quantum engines as it raced through Solsea. Empty streets. Inside, Minho gripped the safety harness as wave after wave of suppressed memories crashed through his consciousness like a digital tsunami. Each recovered fragment hit him with the force of a physical blow, revealing truths that had been locked away in the deepest corners of his mind. His neural implant wasn't just military hardware for enhanced reflexes and battlefield communication. It was a sophisticated memory vault, designed to hide the most dangerous secrets until the moment humanity's survival hung in the balance. The technology was alien in origin, reverse-engineered from crashed Vorthik ships and modified to work with human brain chemistry. The headaches, Minho gasped, remembering years of mysterious pain that doctors couldn't explain. The memory gaps. You were suppressing everything. Sergeant Choi Yoonji, the team's intelligence specialist, nodded grimly from her position at the vehicle's tactical console. Her fingers danced across holographic displays showing enemy positions, troop movements, and threat assessments that, updated in real time. The Vorthok have been replacing key figures for 15 years, she explained, her voice steady despite the magnitude of the revelation. Your wife Dr. Lee discovered their genetic markers in tissue samples from supposed accident victims. The display screens showed photographs of prominent figures from around the world. Government officials, military leaders, scientists, corporate executives, all marked with red warning indicators that made Minho's blood run cold. Each face represented someone who had been murdered and replaced by a perfect alien mimic. The tissue samples showed microscopic inconsistencies. Yoonji continued, pulling up Dr. Lee's research data. Cellular structures that looked human but contained genetic markers that don't exist in Earth's evolutionary tree. Your wife was the first person to identify the pattern. Minho's enhanced memory began reconstructing the final weeks of his wife's life, her strange behavior, her paranoia, her insistence that they needed to leave Earth. He had dismissed her fears as work-related stress, never imagining that she had discovered humanity's greatest threat. She tried to tell me, he whispered, guilt and rage warring in his chest. But I thought she was just exhausted from the research project. The Vorthok are master manipulators. Captain Jae-min said from the driver's seat, his eyes never leaving the road as he navigated through traffic with inhuman precision. They've been studying human psychology for decades. They knew exactly how to make her sound paranoid, how to isolate her from potential allies. The vehicle's communication ray crackled with encrypted chatter from other Lazarus teams round the globe. Similar scenarios were playing out in major cities worldwide as sleeper agents awakened to find their communities infiltrated by hostile aliens. Minho's fists clenched as another memory surfaced. The night before So Young's death, she had tried to show him something on her personal computer, a file labeled Project Genesis that she claimed would change everything. But he had been too tired, too focused on his own work to pay attention. The funeral was a trap, he said, the terrible truth crystallizing in his mind. They knew I would come. They were waiting for me. They needed you conscious and unaware to extract the location of Lazarus' safe houses, Jaemin confirmed, taking a sharp turn that threw everyone against their restraints. Your neural implant contains the coordinates for every secret facility, every weapons cache, every safe house we've established over the past decade. But your wife was smarter than they knew. The vehicle's tactical display showed a three-dimensional map of the Korean peninsula, marked with dozens of hidden locations, underground bunkers, underwater facilities, orbital stations disguised as research platforms. Each one represented years of preparation for a war that most of humanity didn't even know was coming. She hid her research in a place only you could access, Yoonji added, her console beeping with incoming data. The quantum encrypted files are locked to your specific neural signature. Even if they had captured you, they would have needed you alive and cooperative to break the encryption. The vehicle's communication system suddenly crackled to life with urgent chatter. Corporal Nam Tae-hyun's voice cut through the static from his position at the mobile command center. Captain, we've got orbital signatures dropping out of hyperspace. Multiple contacts, massive energy signatures. They're not trying to hide anymore. The main display shifted to show Earth from orbit, surrounded by dark shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The Vorthok battle cruisers were, unlike anything in human military doctrine. They moved like living creatures, their hulls rippling with organic curves that suggested they were grown rather than built. How many? Jaemin demanded, his knuckles whitening on the steering wheel. 12 confirmed. Possibly more incoming, Tyan reported. Each one is the size of a city block. Enter to Earth. For hours, maybe less if they decide to accelerate. Minho felt a cold determination settle over him like armor. The suppressed memories were still flooding back. But now, they brought with them knowledge of weapons and tactics that humanity had developed in secret. The Vorthok weren't the only ones who had been preparing for this day. "Then we better move fast," he said, his voice carrying the authority of a man who had commanded troops in battles that never officially happened. The research facility isn't just hidden, it's armed. The vehicle's engines roared louder as Jamin pushed them to maximum speed through the armored windows. Minho could see other people going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their world was about to change forever. Children played in parks, couples walked hand in hand, office workers hurried to their jobs. All of them depending on a handful of soldiers they would never meet to keep them safe. The facility has defensive systems that make our orbital platforms look like toys. Minho continued, more memories unlocking with each passing second. But it needs to command codes to activate. Mine and... He paused, the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. So youngs, that's why they couldn't just kill me. They needed both of us alive. The revelation hung in the air like a live wire. The Vorthok had made their first mistake, and now humanity had a chance to turn the tables on an enemy that had been hunting them from the shadows for over a decade. Above them, the first Vorthok ships began their descent toward Earth's atmosphere, their weapons charging for what they believed would be a quick and decisive victory. They were about to learn that humanity was full of surprises. The submarine deep strike cut through the dark waters off the coast of Bizon like a steel predator hunting in the abyss. Its hull was coated with technology that made it invisible to both human and alien sensors. A ghost ship carrying humanity's last hope into the crushing depths of the Pacific Ocean. Minho pressed his palm against the submarine's neural interface, feeling the familiar tingle as his enhanced implant connected with the vessel's quantum computer systems the deeper they descended. The more his suppressed memories returned. This facility had been his second home for 3 years, back when Project Lazarus was just beginning to understand the true scope of the alien threat. "Depth, 800 meters and descending," announced Lieutenant Park Sujin, the submarine's pilot. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced precision, navigating through underwater canyons that didn't appear on any civilian maps. Approaching the thermal layer, switching to silent running, the submarine's engine shifted to whisper quiet mode as they passed through the thermic line, that invisible barrier between the warm surface waters and the cold depths below. Here, in the eternal darkness, humanity had built its most classified installation. Captain Jamin studied the tactical displays, his scarred face illuminated by the green glow of the instruments. "Any sign of Vorthok pursuit?" "Negative," reported Sergeant Choi Yoonji from her sensor station. "They're still focused on surface targets. They don't know about the deep facilities yet." Minho's neural implant suddenly blazed with activity as they approached the coordinates burned into his memory. The facility's automated systems recognized his quantum signature and began transmitting his wife's final messages. The data came through in fragments, encrypted packets that had been waiting for him to return. "The Vorthok weakness," he whispered, tears streaming down his face as he read her last words scrolling across his enhanced vision. "She found it." The submarine's external cameras revealed the facility as they approached. It was a marvel of human engineering, a sprawling complex of interconnected domes and towers that seemed to grow from the ocean floor like some fantastic coral reef. Bioluminescent strips provided navigation lighting. Defensive weapon emplacements tracked their approach before recognizing their identification codes. Deep strike, "This is Lazarus Space Alpha," came a voice over the communication system. The speaker sounded exhausted, pushed to the edge of human endurance. "Thank God you made it. We've been holding out. But we're running low on everything, as their submarine docked with the facility's airlock." Minho felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. This place represented his. Of his life, countless hours spent preparing for a war that most of humanity didn't even know was coming. Now that war had arrived, and everything depended on what his wife had hidden in the depths of the ocean, the facility's corridors were a maze of advanced technology and desperate last stands. Glass doors hung twisted on their hinges, their quantum steel construction melted by alien energy weapons. Scorch marks on the walls told the story of running battles between human defenders and Vorthic infiltrators who had somehow discovered the location. Emergency lighting cast everything in a hellish red glow, and the air recycling system struggled to clear the smoke and the metallic smell of spilled blood. This had been a place of scientific wonder, where humanity's greatest minds worked to unlock the secrets of the universe. Now it was a battlefield. Dr. Han Su-min met them at the main laboratory, her usually pristine lab coat stained with blood and alien ichor. She had been So-young's closest colleague, a brilliant physicist who specialized in quantum mechanics and dimensional theory. Now she looked like a warrior who had been fighting for her life. "We've been holding out for 3 days," she reported, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "The infiltrators keep coming in waves, but they can't breach the quantum locks on the main laboratory. They need both command codes to access the core systems." Minho looked round the laboratory where his wife had spent her final weeks. The walls were covered with equations and diagrams that seemed to bend the mind just by looking at them, quantum formulas that described the fundamental nature of reality itself, genetic sequences that mapped the building blocks of life, and most importantly, the research that had cost So-young her life. "How many survived?" Jamin asked, his professional concern evident despite the urgency of their situation. 12 scientists, 6 security personnel. Dr. Han replied, "We lost so many good people. The Vorthak came disguised as maintenance workers, cleaning staff, even some of our own colleagues. We didn't realize until it was too late." Minho placed his hand on the central console, feeling the familiar tingle as his neural implant interfaced with the facility's quantum computers. The systems recognized his genetic signature and began downloading terabytes of encrypted data directly into his enhanced memory. His wife's research flooded the screens round them like a digital waterfall, genetic sequences that revealed the true nature of Vorthic biology, quantum signatures that mapped their dimensional technology, and most importantly, the one critical weakness that she had discovered in their seemingly perfect shape-shifting abilities. "They can copy our bodies, our memories, even our thoughts," Minho realized, his voice filled with wonder and grief as he processed his wife's final gift to humanity. "But they can't copy our souls." The revelation was staggering in its simplicity. The Vorthic were master mimics, capable of replicating any living being down to the cellular level. They could access memories, mimic personalities, even fool the most advanced scanning equipment. But there was one thing they couldn't replicate: the quantum resonance of human consciousness. The unique pattern of thoughts and emotions that made each person truly individual. Emotional quantum signatures, Dr. Han explained, her voice gaining strength as she saw the data. "Your wife discovered that human consciousness creates a unique quantum field that can't be artificially replicated. It's like a fingerprint of the soul." Above them, the facility's sensors detected the first Vorthic ships entering Earth's atmosphere. The massive vessels moved with predatory grace, their organic hulls rippling with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of technology beyond human understanding. Their weapons were already charging, preparing to scorch the surface of the planet clean of all human life. Minho's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of the facility's defensive systems coming online. Weapon emplacements that had been hidden in the ocean floor began emerging, their quantum cannons charging with energy that made the water itself glow. This installation wasn't just a research facility, it was a fortress, humanity's last line of defense against the alien threat. "They're coming for us," Sergeant Choi reported from her monitoring station. "Multiple contacts approaching from the surface. They've found us." The final battle for Earth's future was about to begin in the crushing depths of the Pacific Ocean, where humanity's greatest secret would either save the world or die with the last defenders of the Who. Man Race, the deepest chamber of the underwater facility, felt like stepping into the heart of a sleeping giant. Massive quantum processors lined the walls, their surfaces covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move when viewed directly. The air itself hummed with barely contained energy, and Minho could feel the power of the device through his neural implant like static electricity before a thunderstorm. The quantum transmission ray dominated the center of the chamber, a crystalline structure that rose from the floor like a technological tree. Its branches spread outward in complex geometric patterns, each one designed to channel and amplify the unique quantum signature of human consciousness. This was his wife's masterpiece, the culmination of years of research into the deepest mysteries of the human mind. "The emotional quantum signature," Minho said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to do. His enhanced memory showed him the countless hours So Young had spent perfecting this technology, working late into the night while he slept peacefully, unaware that she was building humanity's salvation. Love, grief, hope, rage they create, patterns the Vorthik can mimic. If we broadcast this, every human on Earth will be able to identify the infiltrators, Dr. Hahn finished, her voice filled with awe and terror at the implications. But the transmission requires a living host, someone with the neural implant to survive the quantum feedback. The facility shuddered as Vorthik attack vessels began their assault on the ocean surface above. Their weapons sent shock waves through the water, and emergency lighting flickered as the installation's defensive systems engaged. Through the quantum rays displays, Minho could see the battle raging across the globe as humanity's hidden defenders emerged from the shadows. Minho looked at his teammates Stamen, Yunji, Taihan, and the others who had become his brothers and sisters in humanity's final hour. These were the people who had risked everything to bring him to this moment. Warriors who had fought impossible odds to protect a world that didn't even know they existed. "Then that's what we'll do," he said, stepping toward the quantum ray with the calm determination of a man who had found his purpose. The facility's main displays showed the Vorthik fleet descending toward Earth's major cities like a plague of mechanical locusts. Each ship was the size of a city block, their organic hulls rippling with bioluminescent patterns that spoke of technology beyond human understanding. Their weapons were already charging, preparing to scorch the surface of the planet clean of all human life. Minho placed both hands on the quantum ray's control interface, feeling the familiar tingle as his neural implant connected with the device's quantum processors. The system recognized his genetic signature and began drawing power from his enhanced brain, channeling the raw energy of human emotion into pure quantum information. The process was unlike anything he had ever experienced. Every memory, every emotion, every moment of love and loss in his life became fuel for the transmission. He felt So Young's presence in the quantum field, her love for him and for humanity itself becoming part of the signal that would save their world. The device drew power from his enhanced neural implant, channeling every moment of love he'd shared with So Young, every tear he'd shed for her loss, every burning desire for justice. The quantum ray blazed with light that seemed to come from another dimension, and Minho felt his consciousness expanding to encompass the entire planet. The transmission burst outward at light speed, carrying with it the quantum signature of human emotion. The signal spread across the globe like ripples in a pond, reaching every corner of the earth in a matter of seconds. It was a message written in the language of the human heart. A declaration that no alien technology could replicate or understand. Across the globe, the shapeshifters' disguises failed simultaneously. In government buildings, military bases, and research facilities, the aliens were exposed as their human masks dissolved like morning mist. The Vorthik infiltrators, who had spent years perfecting their human disguises, suddenly found themselves revealed in their true forms. World leaders who had been replaced by aliens were identified instantly. Military commanders who had been sabotaging Earth's defenses were exposed. Scientists who had been feeding information to the enemy were revealed as monsters wearing human faces. The carefully constructed network of infiltration that had taken decades to build crumbled in an instant. The invasion became a rout. Humanity, now able to distinguish friend from foe, turned their weapons on the infiltrators with ruthless efficiency. The Vorthik fleet, cut off from their ground support and intelligence network, found themselves facing a united Earth that knew exactly who the enemy was. Earth's orbital defense platforms, no longer compromised by alien infiltrators, came online. With devastating effect, quantum cannons that had been secretly installed on the Moon and Mars began firing, their beams of concentrated energy turning the massive Vorthik ships into expanding balls of superheated plasma. Minho collapsed as the transmission completed, his neural implant burning out from the strain of channeling so much quantum energy. Smoke rose from the neural ports at the base of his skull, and his enhanced vision flickered and died as his teammates rushed to his side. He smiled weakly through the pain. So young, he whispered, feeling her presence one last time before the quantum connection faded. I kept my promise. I finished your work. Through the facility's reinforced windows, they could see the Vorthik ships exploding in brilliant flashes against the night sky. Each explosion was a small sun, visible even through the crushing depths of the ocean. The alien fleet that had come to conquer Earth was dying in the cold vacuum of space, their dreams of conquest turning to cosmic dust. Humanity had won its greatest victory not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the one thing that made them truly human, the unbreakable bonds of love and sacrifice that connected them across the stars. The war was over in less than 6 hours. The infiltrators were gone, their true forms revealed and neutralized, and humanity, tempered by fire and united by loss, looked toward the stars with newfound strength and purpose. 6 months later, Minho stood once again at Seoul Memorial Chapel. But this time he wasn't alone. Beside him stood his teammates and hundreds of other Lazarus veterans, all paying their respects to the woman whose discovery had saved their species. The chapel had been rebuilt, its walls now bearing the names of all who had died in humanity's secret war. So Young's grave was covered with flowers from around the world, tributes from a grateful humanity that finally knew the truth. Minho placed his hand on the headstone, feeling a peace that had eluded him for months. The war was over, the infiltrators were gone, and humanity, tempered by fire and united by loss, looked toward the stars with newfound strength, knowing that they were not alone in the universe, but also knowing that they were strong enough to face whatever came next. The end.